What's up, Nashville? This is Bo Beach with the Free Speech Podcast, as always brought to you by Beechwood Commercial Real Estate Brokerage, your AI-enhanced broker for sellers in Nashville and the Southeast. We're going to catch you up on the top stories of the past 2 weeks with an emphasis on Nashville commercial real estate. I'm going to get right into it. I'll give you an overview of all the stories we're going to discuss, and then we'll get into them. What a rate cut means for commercial real estate investors. Yesterday, a very, very big day, a long overdue interest rate cut. I'm going to talk to you briefly about that. Kollective, with a K, an Austin-based fitness company, is opening its first Nashville location in Wedgwood, Houston. A bunch of big names involved in that project. I'll catch you up there. Santa's Pub will remain open following the death of owner Denzel Santa Irwin. The Printing House Hotel opens. I don't know if you're familiar with this project, but it's one of the few hotels that powered through the last few years of distress. The Printing House Hotel is now open. I'll explain what that means. The new owners of Phillips Plaza to reinvent the top half of the downtown tower, for which they recently paid $29 million. So this is an interesting story because Phillips Plaza sold at an extreme discount. It's one of those office deals downtown Nashville that sold for a shockingly low price. It's since retraded, and now half of that building going to be repurposed for housing. I'll catch you up there. Are Fannie and Freddie going private? Right? We'll review what that means and what perhaps would be the outcome, the result of those two entities going private. Next, a women's sports-focused bar to open in East Nashville. I think this is news, if not only for, I've never in my life heard of a sports bar focused on women's sports. I'll tell you why that is. Next, a third Party Foul location is planned near Vanderbilt. Party Foul had a big local grouping of stores. They went through bankruptcy. Now they're making their comeback. I'm going to catch up on where they are with that comeback. The Harpeth Square Hotel, which is a very, very nice hotel in downtown Franklin, sees its ownership structure change. That by itself isn't that interesting, except when you find out who the new owner is and what else they have going on in Franklin. Cracker Barrel halts remodels after logo backlash. Y'all probably follow this story. I'm going to let you know the results of all of the online backlash they received, including from the president himself, Donald Trump. Mel's Drive-In has opened on 2nd Avenue in downtown Nashville. That's a little misleading. While it's called a drive-in, it's not actually a drive-in, but it is a cool new business downtown. I'm going to walk you through what that means. And lastly, a recent $10 million purchase downtown, the former Losers Bar and Grill, which I still believe is the worst name for a bar that I've ever heard. Losers Bar and Grill. That property traded for $10 million. It's now to become, get this, a Mexican restaurant. You've got to sell a lot of tacos to get that $10 million back. So let's get into it. I'm going to keep this real short on the rate cut stuff. You know, we've talked a lot about it in previous episodes. What a rate cut means for CRE investors, right? So they lowered the federal funds rate by a quarter point, 0.25%, right? They've also forecast 2 additional quarter point cuts by the end of the year, right? So in the next 3.5 months, interest rates should be down at least 0.75%, right? And perhaps in number terms or financial terms, that doesn't move the needle that much. I would argue that it is a big deal in terms of market confidence, right? So people are saying this is a shot in the arm. This is a confidence boost. And I agree. We need buyers to get off the sidelines and start transacting again. We need lenders to get off the sidelines and start lending again. And this is the first step in that direction. Recovery in the commercial real estate sector takes place in three arenas: fundamentals, financials, and confidence. Beleaguered by the economic effects of COVID-19, commercial real estate's fundamentals have already been improving as return to office trends progress, and lower interest rates help on the financial side by increasing debt availability. So I guess I will push back on that. I'm not sure how lower rates immediately increase debt availability. You've still got to have lenders that are willing to provide loans even at those new lower rates, right? So I'm not sure lower interest rates automatically means more debt availability. I'd push back on that. I hope that's true. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe I'm just not as clever as I think I am, and there's a direct connection there. I would be happy to be proven wrong on that. Those two dynamics combine to help drive more confidence. So when you're talking to people who know what they're talking about on the Fed lowering the federal funds rate, really what we're getting at here is not the marginal savings every month in the lower interest rate one would pay on their note, but really we're talking about a market-wide uptick in confidence. Finally, interest rates are trending back down. Finally, we're going to be able to go out and borrow money and borrow that money at lower rates than we otherwise could. Finally, maybe I qualify for a loan where otherwise I wouldn't, because so many of these loans are tethered to tax returns, which it seems to me to be a huge opportunity to improve the lending business is untether loan approval from tax returns. Tax returns are meant to lower the taxable income of that person, to minimize the tax that they pay. So maybe we shouldn't be deriving our annual income or cash flow from a document that's designed to minimize our annual income or cash flow. Maybe we need to have other measures of income or cash flow that don't involve the government, and perhaps maybe we could start making loans to people again. That would all be lovely. But I've kind of gotten off track here, so let's bring it back. Let's get back to our next story, which is Kollective with a K. An Austin-based fitness company has opened its first Nashville location in Wedgwood, Houston, commonly called WeHo. The high-end gym and social club, that's the part that y'all have to understand about this. This is not just a high-end gym. This is a high-end gym and social club. Signed a lease for about 25,000 square feet at 1400 3rd Avenue South, where it is planning to open next year. That is a lot of space. That is a lot of very expensive space. So we're talking about a very high-end offering here. We were aiming to create a Soho-like club around the wellness field, said the co-founder. The Nashville location of the high-end gym is backed by several professional athlete investors, including Titans player Jeffrey Simmons and J.C. Latham, Astros pitcher Craig Kimbrell, Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud, and Phillies first baseman Bryce Harper. Kollective was founded in 2022, has 2 Austin locations. The new Nashville spot marks its first out-of-state expansion. Kollective's Nashville location will give members all the usual high-end gym offerings such as fitness classes, workout equipment, recovery spaces, but it's also an entry into an exclusive club which hosts social events, promotes networking between members, and offers co-working spaces. When I read all of that, what my honest take on it is, when I'm thinking in the back of my mind, this is a gym and social club for people without children. Unless you're going there during the business day, who has got the time for all of this? I understand the need to get in and work out during the day. I find a way to do it. But to travel to a gym and then be going back for social events and networking and co-working spaces, like, people with children don't have that kind of time. So I would say this is more of a childless social club for folks that are successful and have all kinds of income to spend on themselves. We want you to be able to walk into Kollective and elevate your game, whether that's health and wellness, professionally, networking, all those different elements come with that membership. Kollective memberships can cost around $500 per month at its Austin locations. Quote, the amount of people moving to Nashville from these major markets like New York, California, Florida, it's an exciting time to be part of Nashville because you've got entertainment, country music, celebrities, professional athletes, some of the biggest CEOs, entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and tech founders that all live here locally. Wedgwood, Houston represents one of Nashville's most dynamic neighborhoods with over $1 billion in active development transforming the area. You can feel the energy. I think it's now getting to the point where it's all coming and the freight train is not going to stop. So, some words there about the strength of Nashville and then also how hot the Wedgwood, Houston submarket is. Obviously I'm in the business of commercial real estate. I understand the Wedgwood, Houston submarket and the prices that are being garnered for properties there. On a personal level, I don't quite get it. I'm more of a suburbs guy. So Wedgwood, Houston doesn't pull me in. Something tells me that I'm perhaps not the demographic. The dad of 4 that lives in the suburbs, you're going to have a hard time getting him to come to Wedgwood, Houston for anything, in my opinion. But what do I know? Maybe I'm just antisocial. All right, here we go. Let's keep moving. Santa's Pub will remain open following the death of owner Denzel Santa Irwin. Irwin, who purchased the 2225 Brandsward Avenue property in 2010, died peacefully at his home on September 13th. Nashville native Irwin and partner Angelina Stillings turned a double-wide trailer into a famous karaoke bar that has become a must-stop for both locals and celebrities. The family will continue to operate Santa's Pub in Santa's honor. 2225 Bransford Avenue will remain a place where strangers become friends and everybody is treated like somebody. The glow of Christmas lights, the sound of karaoke, and the spirit of kindness that defines Santa will live on through the bar that he loved. So there you go. That is a double-wide trailer bar that gets a lot of attention. So there you go. It will continue to operate. The Printing House Hotel opens. Indianapolis-based developer Sun Development has opened the Printing House Hotel in Rutledge Hill. The 11-story building is located at 501 3rd Avenue South. The hotel offers 187 rooms, which includes 12 deluxe suites, an outdoor terrace, and 2 restaurant spaces, called the Letterpress Lounge and Terrace, offering live music, shareable bites, and cocktails, and also the cafe known as the Press House. So if that wasn't clear, the 2 restaurants called the Letterpress Lounge and Terrace and the Press House. Nightly rates will begin at $349 per night. The Printing House is part of Hilton Tapestry brand of independent hotels. Sun Development paid $4 million for the half-acre property way back in 2017. So put that in perspective. You paid $4 million for some dirt 8 years ago. It's 2025 now, and finally your project opens and starts to collect money from customers. That's 8 years of negative cash flow while you've been working on this development. The development business is crazy hard. There's got to be a big payoff or a big potential payoff at the end. because 8 years of negative cash flow is probably one of the riskier things anybody could do. Surviving 8 years of money going out the door before a single dollar comes back in is very, very difficult. The hotel, this is the interesting part. Now they're going to explain why they're calling it the printing house. And it doesn't quite click for me, maybe it does for you. The hotel is our tribute to the city's printing history, which was instrumental in the stamping of songbooks, eventually converging with artists who made the Music City what it is today. So somehow Nashville has a printing history specific to songbooks. Maybe that's true. I don't know. Starting with the exterior of the hotel, featuring textured stamping patterns, to our elegant lobby and best in city patio overlooking the Cumberland River in downtown, this hotel will contribute to the continuing history of Nashville. Construction of the hotel began in 2022. So you buy it in 18, you start construction in 2022, you finally get open for business in 2025. The Printing House Hotel in Rutledge Hill. New owners of Phillips Plaza to reinvent the top half of a downtown tower. Downtown office tower Phillips Plaza is slated for a hotel component. The hotel spaces are planned for the top 10 floors, currently lacking tenants of the 20-story building. So the top 10 floors of a 20-story office building are completely vacant. The first floor is also primarily vacant and is slated for a restaurant. It's previously called the Bank of America Plaza. The address is 1414 Union Street, right? So this is very on trend, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. The sellers in the recent transaction paid $17 million for the 20-story office tower last year. So they paid $17 million last year for this 20-story tower. The current owners paid $29 million, but get this, the owner before that, when they sold it for $17 million, they took a $95 million loss on the property. So you can add that up. But when they sold this property for $17 million, they were locking in a $95 million loss. The guys that bought it buy it at $17 million, sell it less than a year later for $29 million. Okay? The tower opened in 1977. It rises about 290 feet. It sits on 0.84 acres and is near the recently renovated The Arcade. The main tenant in Phillips Plaza is health tech company Philips. Other tenants in the high-rise, which is approximately 40% leased, include Industrious and Silo. The main level previously housed PJ's Coffee. So let me give you some additional information here. So of that 10 floors being converted from office to hotels, it's actually 6 floors of traditional hotel rooms and 4 floors of what they're calling Airbnb suites, right? So 6 floors of rooms, 4 floors of suites. The first level is going to get separate lobbies. So the office tenants have one lobby, the hotel tenants have one lobby. There's also a bar, fine dining, and several lounges coming, including an outdoor patio. I will tell you this is on trend for the downtown core in Nashville. The Fifth Third Center is expected to be converted to up to 500 hotel rooms. That's a similar story whereby the most recent seller took a large loss on the property. Also at 211 Commerce, an office building, that is the location of Dolly Parton's Songteller Hotel. That property almost fully vacant at that time as well. They're actually building the hotel around a few floors that are occupied still by office tenants. So you're seeing many downtown office buildings. So a lot of office users want it out of the downtown. It's too crazy. It's the tourism district. It's hard to get in and out of. It's loud. It's just chaos. So those office users are leaving the downtown core, right? They're going to places like Germantown or the West End or Midtown, or Music Row, or Williamson County, right? And those big, beautiful office buildings have determined that their highest and best use is something that appeals to the people that do want to be downtown, which is the tourism business. So that's what's happening. In order for these buildings to be retrofitted to a new use, you've got to get into them at a low basis, which means pay a low cost, so you can put an extreme amount of money in them to change them to that new use. That generally means the people that are selling those distressed buildings are losing an insane amount of money, and the new guy who's buying at a low price is investing an insane amount of money to change them to the new thing. So, usually these conversions come only after a distressed sale. I would tell you, I don't think that's how the Dolly Parton Hotel played out. I think they got a pretty reasonable price for it. But the others we discussed, that's certainly what's happened. All right, Fannie and Freddie, are they going private? And if so, what does that mean? The prospect of privatizing and potentially merging Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac has rapidly moved to the forefront as Trump administration weighs whether to proceed with individual IPOs or the bold step of a combined mega listing. The commercial real estate sector faces both significant uncertainty and opportunity. Why this matters: Fannie and Freddie together back about half of all U.S. mortgages, provide essential liquidity for both the residential and multifamily segments. Through their secondary market operations, which means buying loans from lenders and securitizing them, they have made possible the widespread availability of the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, a backbone of U.S. home ownership and multifamily development. So we're talking about Fannie and Freddie, we're talking about homes and apartments, yeah? Proponents argue a merger would unlock operational efficiencies, streamline oversight, and potentially reduce mortgage rates. A partial IPO offering 5 to 15% of the companies could raise as much as $30 million and value the pair at roughly $500 billion. What are the potential challenges? Higher borrowing costs. Removing or reducing the federal guarantee could force the GSEs, that's Fannie and Freddie, to price risk more like private companies, likely leading to higher mortgage rates. For commercial real estate, this would be especially felt in the multifamily sector. Another potential challenge: disruption to affordable housing. These entities' affordable housing mandates have helped keep capital flowing into underserved markets. A purely private model can mean fewer subsidized lending programs, less predictable underwriting, and challenges to affordable multifamily supply. Now, potential benefits: privatization could drive more efficient, market-driven resource allocation and spur new mortgage products. In the long run, a healthier, competitive Fannie and Freddie could mean broader and more innovative finance options for developers and investors. Reduced federal liability: privatizing the firms would lessen taxpayer exposure, right? Whether privatization proceeds and in what form will have profound consequences for every corner of the real estate industry. There's enough to worry about out there. This is one of those things I don't think you need to worry about. In the event Fannie and Freddie change in any way, I'm confident that our current group of leaders will do so in a way that is helpful. I'm absolutely positive that it is, there is potential to run those two entities much better than the government has been for many years. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in the competency of the government. So if we can get the government out of the way, make it easier for private industry to do what we need to do, generally I think that is a good idea. So I'm sure there is room for improvement in both of those entities. However they decide to structure it, I'm sure will benefit the private market. A women's sports-focused bar to open in East Nashville. That by itself is enough to get your attention. We're going to call this bar Chapstick Lounge, which is the sister business to a 20-plus year business known as Lipstick Lounge. And it will be located at 1400 Woodland Street. That's right, Lipstick Lounge and Chapstick Lounge. The new space will offer 1,500 square feet and a patio. Chapstick will offer the same menu as Lipstick, a variety of sandwiches and wraps and quesadillas. Just like the Lipstick Lounge is for all humans, Chapstick is sports for all. Okay? That means every single person has a seat at Chapstick. We are all inclusive. We do our best to showcase as many different sports and games as possible. That means we will be showing women's and men's games. The Lipstick Lounge is the only lesbian-owned and operated bar in Tennessee. So there you go. I personally have no experience with lesbian bars. You know, if one were to fantasize, just for a minute, I'm being a little silly right now. If one were to fantasize about what a lesbian bar looks like, if a man were to fantasize about what a lesbian bar looks like, I am 100% confident that if you walked in there in real life, you would be let down, okay? I think you would be very much let down by the scene in the lesbian bar. I could be wrong about this. It could be awesome. There could be beautiful women from wall to wall. I'm guessing that's not true. Let's keep moving before I get myself in trouble here. A third party foul is now planned near the site of Vanderbilt, which is not that interesting, but let's kind of catch up on where Party Foul is in their adventure through bankruptcy. The space with an address of 2031 Broadway at Erston, Aerston, Midtown. What are we doing with these names? So you're going to do a brand new multi-million-dollar development, and then you're going to call it something that people can't say or spell, okay? That is madness. That is marketing madness. And then let's just keep going. Which last hosted, so the restaurant that used to be in this space called Ichigo Ichi, okay? Ichigo Ichi. If I wanted to go to that restaurant and I had to type it into my Maps app to figure out where the heck I was going, don't you think it would be easier if I had any idea how to spell the business I was trying to visit? Or how about the development? Erston? I mean, this is madness. This is absolute madness. People are thinking they're getting style points. Really what they're getting is foolish points for these names that are selected. Okay. The move is part of an expansion plan for the Hot Chicken Restaurant and Bar, which is emerging from a 2024 bankruptcy and a failed 2022 plan to move its original Gulch location across the street. Party Foul has the location in Donaldson and at the Nashville International Airport and is planning locations in Murfreesboro and Sylvan Park in addition to this Vanderbilt area location. This news follows Party Foul having recently announced it is officially closing its Gulch location and is also working on an East Nashville location. So I would say, you know, they're bouncing back pretty strong. They're pretty much trading out of old locations and starting new locations, you know, which I don't know if that says much about your ability to pick good locations. If you're going to exit every single one you were in and try again in all different markets, but nevertheless, it is what it is. You have to choose amongst your available options. In a business like Party Foul, your options are difficult ones, but they seem to be plowing forward with a number of new locations, and I wish them well. It's a tough thing to do. Okay, we got 3 short stories to share for you, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. The Harpeth Square Hotel sees an ownership structure change. If you haven't been to the Harpeth Square Hotel in downtown Franklin, I do think it is worthy of visiting. It's very, very nicely done. It is a boutique, high-end hotel in a great location. Go in and check it out if you have a chance. Birmingham-based Arlington now has controlling interest in key component of downtown's mixed-use Harpeth Square. The high-end hotel, which is affiliated with Hilton's Curio Collection, is a component of the mixed-use Harpeth Square and offers an address of 130 2nd Avenue North in Franklin. Opened in 2019, the hotel includes 119 rooms. The seller was Memphis-based Keeman's Wilson Hospitality Partners. Arlington Family Offices opened a Franklin office in 2015 and is developing the downtown Franklin property known as the Margin District, a high-end mixed-use development. The Margin District will sit outside the boundary of Franklin's Historic Preservation Overlay District. So one of the bigger projects to ever happen to downtown Franklin is the Margin District, which was a years-long assemblage of parcels along Columbia Avenue, which is just south of Five Points, which is the downtown Franklin, the downtown core that Franklin downtown is known for. Just south of that, outside the Historic Preservation Overlay, is where the Margin District is being constructed. The former Handy Hardware building, which Arlington purchased in 2020, see, look, they started acquiring these parcels way back in 2020, with another property for $4.8 million will remain and be included in the development. In addition, Arlington acquired 5 other properties, which could carry a total cost of $165 million. The Arlington website notes the company employs 60 individuals and represents 79 families with a collective net worth of approximately $15 billion. So high net worth families investing through Arlington, doing the ground up development of Margin District, and now also acquiring at least some ownership stake, a large ownership stake in the Harpeth Hotel. Quote, the Harpeth Hotel and its welcoming take on Southern hospitality is a great addition to our ongoing development of the Margin District in downtown Franklin, and another intergenerational asset for our client families. How fun is that? You know, we're talking about families worth $15 billion, and they're most interested in intergenerational assets for their families. I would love to be in a situation like that one day. And if I was, I would be investing in cool projects like the Margin District and like the Harpeth Hotel. So I like their style. Cracker Barrel halts remodels after logo backlash. Restaurant chain Cracker Barrel is suspending plans to remodel many of its locations after reversing other plans last month over an unpopular logo change that would have eliminated a longtime company mascot. Remember, Cracker Barrel is located in Lebanon, right? This is a local company. It said that it has done this. It said it's also stopped the plans to update interiors of several of its full-service eateries. So really more than just the logo, they were updating the look and feel of their stores. In addition to the logo, all of that stopped. It decided to retain vintage American elements after plans had called for removing some elements in favor of more sparse white interiors, along with menu updates in a bid to lure younger customers. Test locations garnered negative customer feedback. Quote, we heard clearly that the modern remodel design does not reflect what you love about Cracker Barrel. We had tested this design in only 4 of our 660 locations, and we won't continue with it. President Donald Trump and other conservative politicians also voiced opposition. Okay, so you want me to break down for you what actually happened here? A woman that wears dark liberal glasses was trying to change the look and feel of Cracker Barrel, right? And make it modern and young, right? And that is not what the conservative customers of Cracker Barrel wanted. You know, it felt like a liberal takeover of Cracker Barrel. That's what it was. That's why people reacted so negatively. You know, I don't know this woman's political leanings, but it's just, you look at her, you look at how she talks, you look at what she was trying to do to the business, it looked like a liberal takeover of Cracker Barrel, and conservatives did not like it. And they let their voices be heard, and they shut it down, right? So that's exactly what happened there. Cracker Barrel for me, when I think of Cracker Barrel, I think, oh man, the food's not very good. If I'm going to spend the time and money to go out to eat, I want the food to be like really tasty and special. And when I go to Cracker Barrel, it doesn't taste tasty or special. If anything, these restaurants really need to dial the food in. I think it's lazy thinking to think that if you paint your walls white and declutter and change your logo, that people are going to like your food more. I think the way to get people to like your food more is to improve the quality of ingredients and preparation of that food, which is harder, right? Which is harder than repainting and redecorating and choosing new logos. Actually, preparing and serving good food is a harder ask for a restaurant than it is to remodel, right? So I think they were trying to take the easy way out, but they're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and just serve better food. All right, let's keep moving. Mel's Drive-In has opened on 2nd Avenue in downtown Nashville. You might say, a drive-in on 2nd Avenue? If anybody knows 2nd Avenue, there's no space. It's all, every inch of 2nd Avenue is covered by the buildings that are there, right? There's no, the only spaces in the street are on the sidewalks, right? So there's nowhere to drive in. The 152 2nd Avenue North site, which was previously occupied by B.B. King's Blues Club, is the first location outside of California. Mel's was founded in 1947 and has 8 locations. The diner, that's the part we need to think about here. They're calling it a drive-in, but it's actually a diner. So it should be called Mel's Diner, right? But I'm sure it's got some history to it. Eventually, at some point, there probably was a drive-in, and they're kind of, instead of pulling a Cracker Barrel and updating, they've got that heritage that they're attaching to their name, which I understand. The diner serves American cuisine, breakfast foods, and milkshakes, as well as lighter options, including salads, juices, and smoothies. Quote, Mel's has always stood as a symbol of American tradition. We see Nashville as another iconic American city. We were drawn in by the vibrant country music scene and the lively atmosphere. So, Mel's Diner on 2nd Avenue is now open and probably pretty good. Don't judge them just because they came from California, right? Just like In-N-Out Burger is joining us from California. It would have been a mistake to judge them. They're very, very good people, and they're doing things the right way. So just because I understand the impulse to write off anything that comes out of California as being bad, but maybe Mel's Drive-In deserves the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're really slinging some good diner food over there. Last story, $10 million purchase to become a Mexican restaurant. And as soon as I read that, I think somebody's got too much money, because they're writing a check for $10 million, and then they're going to start serving tacos, okay? The downtown Nashville commercial building, last home to since closed Losers Bar and Grill and located 1 block south of Lower Broadway, is set to accommodate a Mexican cuisine restaurant. 111 4th Avenue South is where the property is located. The buyer is affiliated with Grupo Denim, which I believe is a Mexican business, which from Mexico, which paid $165 million in late 2022 for the hotel segment of the Four Seasons Tower in Sobro. So this is the group that just bought the Four Seasons hotel property. Grupo Denim has registered Tacos El Terry to operate at the building. So $10 million, I don't have the size of this building here, but it's quite small. It's 2 floors, quite small, to be the home of Tacos El Terry. And if Tacos El Terry ever makes enough money to justify a $10 million price on the structure itself, I will be absolutely shocked. But something tells me Grupo Denim has an insane amount of money to invest and are doing so in hard assets in America, in Nashville. For whatever reason they're choosing to do that, they've got a lot of cash to invest, and $10 million for a place to sell some tacos doesn't seem like too big of a stretch, I guess. Champagne problems. Well, y'all, I hope you hung in there with me. We just wrapped up another episode of the Free Speech Podcast brought to you by Beechwood Commercial Real Estate Brokerage. I encourage you to check us out at beechwood.ai. A lot of good information on our website, and of course, everything you need to know about how to contact us and all the different services that we provide. Thanks so much. It's fun doing these podcasts. We enjoy it. We enjoy the conversations that are started by folks that are out there listening. So if you see us out and about, if you see me anywhere and you want to talk about anything that's come up on the podcast, I encourage you to approach me. Let's have that conversation. Thanks so much. Until next time.